Good day everyone, this is Nemesis, and today I finally have a chance to talk about the previous patch that was released for Guild Wars 2 on April 15th. I wish I could have done it sooner, but as some of you guys know, I was hacked. I lost everything and it took about 2 weeks to get it back. So I watched some of the other reviews on the patch, and let's just say that there were a lot of things that haven't been said yet, and we are going to go through them today, since there has been quite a few amazing changes and some really bad stuff as well. I'm not going to go through everything because it's simply too much, and I'm sure you guys already read about them if you're interested, but I do want to talk about some things that I find really important. First, the good news, some really good news. It says here, say goodbye to armor repair costs and hello to free trait resets. With the coming future build, you'll be able to respec your traits anywhere in the world without returning to a professional trainer. To make the deal even sweeter, you won't ever have to pay to reset your traits. We think the cost hinders experimentation and takes away from the fun of experimenting with builds in PvE, so we're removing it entirely. At long last, finally. Do you guys remember how many times I have asked for something like this? I even made some videos about this. I said that the game has one of the best build systems out there, yet players are not encouraged to use multiple builds or experiment. They are more or less forced into one single build because it's very inconvenient to respec. I was actually asking for dual spec, at least, like what most complex MMOs have. I don't know if you guys remember that. It's in the video with a lot of suggestions that I had. I'm smiling because quite a few of my suggestions from that video got implemented in this patch. Not exactly the way I suggested, but they still provided a solution to the same problems that I was trying to fix with my suggestions, so I couldn't be more happy about this. They are finally moving towards build diversity, finally enabling the player to make full use of all the aspects of the game, basically play the entire game. So the second thing they have done to facilitate this is account bound, world experience, legendary and ascended gear. In the upcoming April future build, we will be converting all legendary and ascended equipment to be account based. This means ascended equipment will always remain account bound and will not soul bind to a character when equipped. Legendary weapons will continue to be tradable until equipped, at which point they will become account bound rather than soul bound. As part of the change, we will convert all the existing ascended and legendary equipment that is soul bound to be account bound instead. So of course, you can now reset your traits, but it will still be inconvenient to make a new build because of the gear. And having 3 or 4 different builds on one character might be really costly in the long run if you wish to experiment with multiple characters, which you might as well do since it's really easy to level up in this game. So now this won't be such a problem anymore, since you can just move the gear around. This is a very smart move to nudge people into making ascended gear. It does take a long while, but if you think about it, you only have to do it once, so that's pretty smart on their end. The next thing they have done, introducing the wardrobe system. Oh crap, a lot of writing. So long story short, remember when I said that Guild Wars 2 is still not a pay to win game and the game's funds rely entirely on cosmetics, but it's only a matter of time before sooner or later you will run out of places to put the skins if you want to keep all of them. It's only a matter of time, like maybe in a few months, maybe in a year, you're going to run out of places to put your skins, and maybe you don't want to fill all your inventory slots and make alt characters just to put your skins there and you look at it in the inventory. So the solution to this is I did came up with a suggestion that would fix this issue. And what ArenaNet did, they did something so much better than what I asked for. It's similar to the PvP skin system. Now within the hero panel you have a separate, easy to use interface where all the skins from all the characters get saved as soon as you unlock them. No more taking up to like 300 bank slots just for skins. That was really stupid. It's also easier and more convenient to switch skins around, and you can preview how they would look in real time before applying them, including color change. So for a game that is free to play and at the same time not pay to win, and also relies only on cosmetics, this was a major improvement in the game's interface. I can think of no better way to do it. Seriously. To be honest, I did think about having the PvP skin system for PvE, but then I thought they would have to change the transmutation stones and just change too much with the game, and they will never do it. So I didn't even dare to suggest something like this, but they have taken the initiative. It's really good. And of course, with the coming of the account unified skin system, might as well throw in a unified dye system as well, and refund all the dyes from all the alt accounts back to the player. So that's really good so far. Another good thing they have done, PvP reward tracks and gear unification. Game-wide gear unification, of course, finally you don't have to choose where you want to spend your skins. If you want to look epic in PvP or PvE, there is no more drawbacks. Legendaries in PvP. Give the people more reason to PvP. Lure the players with rewards. Since you can now earn gold in PvP, and apparently you have a chance to get legendary materials and even precursors as rewards, you can now literally spend most of your time in PvP and still come out with a profit. No one is forcing you to grind 300 dungeons anymore, and for me personally that's just awesome. After all this time in Guild Wars 2, PvP is more exciting, is more diverse, it's challenging, and it's a little bit different every single time. So if the necromancer wasn't in such a bad state right now, I would literally PvP all day long. But anyway, we have changes to PvP build UI and quick launch bar. About fucking time. They decided to optimize the way you build your characters in PvP. They made it simpler and much more enjoyable. Again, they are succeeding actually to provide a fun, enjoyable, easy experience while playing with the build diversity, trying to cut out minor or major inconveniences. I have to say this is really, really nice as well. The next thing they have done is reward tracks. It says here, a reward track is a set of rewards that you earn by playing PvP. Each track has rewards at certain intervals, some that you can earn in just a couple of matches, bigger rewards that you can earn in a play session, and really sweet end prizes that you can earn in a few play sessions. Example of rewards you can look forward to include various levels of loot boxes, crafting materials, transmutation charges, weapons, armor, skill points, and more. At regular intervals you will earn tomes of knowledge that will allow you to level up and earn skill points for any of your characters. To kick off this new system, we are thrilled to introduce you to the Balthazar Carapace. Back item that can only be earned through PvP reward track. So it is my firm belief that this reward track, combined with the fact that you can earn gold and legendary materials and precursors in PvP, this is exactly what was missing. This was exactly what was missing. I believe that now there is absolutely no drawback in playing just PvP. And that is exactly what is needed if you ever want to have your game move closer towards esports. The last major amazing thing they have done, and with this they managed to convince me that they are not afraid to totally restructure their game. Baby steps for now, but still, they're not afraid of making big changes, they are not afraid of doing what needs to be done, they are open to suggestions, and they are finally starting to make the right decisions. In a lot of cases, at least. Except, I'll get to that in a few moments. So, rune sigils and balance updates. So, long story short again, they have modified the majority of runes and sigils. So now rune sets have become more viable. Naturally, that means condition duration sets will give more condition duration, since by now I think I managed to convince most of you guys that condition duration is more important than condition damage. So if you want to be best condition DPS EU, you have to use multiple sets. Well, not anymore. I knew the first time they announced this, I'm like, okay, condition duration runes will be buffed from the duration aspect of it. They have also buffed some support runes across the board from what I've seen for quite a bit. They're trying to make other builds viable. Other builds rather than DPS builds. They want to make support builds make a comeback. This was quite a good move to do so. Fewer hidden rules, as in better tooltips, always a good idea. 2 sigils on two-handed weapons, seems only fair. And of course, if you do that, you have to modify some functionality of the sigils. Have that right here. Sigils of the same name no longer stack together. Example, Sigil of Bloodlust will no longer add bonus stacks if another Sigil of Bloodlust is equipped. Likewise, a superior Sigil of Fire will not stack with a superior major or minor Sigil of Fire to have increased fire activations. Sigils no longer share the same cooldown. Example, Sigil of Fire no longer shares the cooldown with Sigil of Air. Basically, when it comes to the runes and sigils, there have been a lot of modifications, both minor or major, to all of the rune sets, almost all. Not going to go through all of them now because it will take me about an hour, and you guys can read for yourselves the runes that you are actually interested in and have your own opinion. These were just the major issues that I wanted to talk about. Now, unfortunately, we are going to have to talk about the bad parts as well. I'm sure most of you have heard about the Great Berserker meta from Guild Wars 2 by now. If you didn't, there will be a link in the description with the video that I made about it, alongside the link to a video in which I offer a bundle of suggestions that I had for Guild Wars 2. Well, long story short, I kept saying the Berserker meta will ruin the game, and surely they will see this sooner or later and try to fix it. I kept saying that they should be facilitating build diversity. I mean, who in their right minds would want to play an MMO in which only 1 or 2 builds are viable and only 1 or 2 classes? You need balance, you need diversity. So, what they have done, converting critical damage to ferocity. Who cares? But, in the process of conversion, reducing the maximum obtainable critical damage. Remember, in my suggestion video I offered the possible solution to the Berserker meta without nerfs and buffs, and I explained why. And it says, one of the main goals for balance in Guild Wars 2, balance, is to support a wide variety of builds, to cater to different playstyles. I'm enjoying this. The current implementation of critical damage works against this. But simply, if critical damage stacked builds are more effective than other approaches, the build diversity decreases. Build diversity decreases, I told you. As we work to increase support and teamwork between players throughout the game, we examined how we could change critical damage to retain it as a fun and viable approach to build making, while also allowing other builds to shine. The formula we are using to convert ferocity into critical damage will reduce the current maximum obtainable values. At level 80, it will take 15 points of ferocity to gain 1% bonus critical damage, which means that there will be about 10% decrease in overall damage for a full Berserker build. Wrong. I have done the math, sort of. I know the values of before and after, sort of. I didn't actually calculate them, but I can see with my eyes. They have converted the stat from critical damage to ferocity not only because it makes sense, but also to hide the actual nerf. They have chosen their words very carefully, says, which means that there will be about a 10% decrease in overall damage for a full Berserker build. but reality is a little bit different, and it's really problematic. So let's say an average Berserker build has about, let's say, 50 or 60% critical strike chance, if you didn't build it like perfectly, which you can expect out of an average player. Well, if you're going to nerf down its overall damage only by lowering critical strike damage, you need to lower critical strike damage by 20%, because you crit half the time. Lowering critical strike damage will not affect the normal hits. So, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see where I'm going with this? The critical strike damage nerf was actually about 20-25%, maybe even 30%, which, even though this nerf still didn't solve the Berserker meta issue, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it if that would not totally devastate builds that rely only on critical strike damage. Classes with builds that always crit, ring any bells? The bottom line is some classes were more nerfed than others by this change, and it was an indirect nerf, and it totally devastated the necromancer, totally trashed it down, gone. Unless they already anticipated that some classes use more critical strike chance than others, therefore the critical damage nerf would hit them more, and they offer some buffs to counteract the fact that that particular classes were more nerfs. So let's take a look. So the necromancer. We are looking for any buffs that might compensate for the crit damage nerf in the glass cannon build. The build that has 100% crit chance via deathly perception, the trait that was given to us as a buff because we were lacking as a glass cannon. So if you are going to take out all the bug fixes parts and all the added or did something to skill fact, you can see that there aren't that many modifications, to be honest. But at any rate, let's see what we can find. So, Reanimator. This trait has been merged into Death Nova. No one liked the trait anyway, so the merge was not that bad. It actually made room for Armored Shroud. Gave bonus toughness while in Death Shroud, 170 extra toughness. Nah. It's okay, not bad. It's not bad. Coming up next we have Protection of the Horde. This trait has been merged into Flash of the Master. Minions have increased health and increased toughness based on how many minions you control. This was a nice minor buff. Kind of makes sense to have it. This merge made room for Soul Comprehension. Passive life force generation from nearby deaths is increased. So far we have toughness in Death Shroud and more Death Shroud uptime in Death Magic trait line. I see they wanted to open up a new playstyle, something with Death Magic and Soul Reaping, maybe a form of tank for World v World. It's a good idea, but in practice these two traits alone, they can form a synergy with some stuff from Soul Reaping, but the end result will be a build that isn't strong enough to stand on its own. You don't have the damage because no power or crit chance, so the crit damage is wasted, and you don't have enough tankiness either. The Death Shroud, the life force pool doesn't regenerate fast enough. Moving on, let's see if we can find the buff we are looking for. Plague Signet. Activation of the Signet will now transfer blind instead of causing the skill to miss. About fucking time. Vampiric Master. Reduce the effectiveness of this trait by 10%. The healing portion of this trait will now scale with the Necromancer healing power stat. I didn't get the chance to play around with healing power minion master. Could be good. They nerf the damage a little bit, as you will soon see, but they give us a bit more sustain. It might be good for PvP. It might actually be good, especially since the Blood Fiend actually scales with healing power. Bug fix, bug fix, bug fix, bug fix. There we go. Training of the Master. Reduce the damage increase to minions from 30 to 25%. like I said, the nerf, as if minions needed any nerf, they weren't doing that much, about 3.5k, something like that. Dumbfire. This trait has been changed so that it will make Life Blast inflict 3 seconds of burning with a 10-second recharge. This trait is no longer split between PvP and PvE. That's their solution. No one ever wanted Dumbfire to begin with, but they still gave it to us in a power trait line. I remember back then everyone was scratching their head, not understanding why it was placed in a power trait line. The traits, in spite, just scream Berserker trait line. After that they nerfed it, and they then nerfed it some more, and now they made this trait more or less of a PvP trait only. Since the Dumbfire condition isn't that strong for single target anyway, unless you epidemic it, which you can do even if you're not the one that put the burning on the target. So yeah, another something that does a lot of nothing basically. Guess we're done with the class balance changes. Let's see if we can find the buff to our glass cannon in the new traits that were added. Parasitic Contagion. 5% of the damage dealt by your conditions heal you. This is not affected by healing power. Ah, nice, nice. This is an insane major buff to condition builds. So I got an idea. Let's put this major buff to condition builds in a power trait line. That's awesome. My fucking god. So as a sustained afflictioner, we go into blood magic for the siphoning, into curses for condition damage, and precision for condition stacking, and the bleeding duration trait, and we go in spite as well for a trait that does exactly what you obtain from blood magic. Everything is all over the place. It's such a mess. It's like one big pot of everything mashed together. Path of Corruption. Dark Path now additionally converts 2 boons into conditions. Maybe this is to compensate for the nerf to the superior rune of Lisa, which hit our PvP build really hard. That's still just 2 boons, and as a Grandmaster trait. Off the top of my head I can think of 2 different PvP builds you can make with the modifications that were made so far, but they are not strong enough compared to what else is out there. I'll show you guys in a few seconds just what I'm talking about. Your jaw will drop a bit. Unholy Sanctuary. Regenerate health while you are in Death Shroud. Nice. Nice. Our only heal while in Death Shroud is in a trait line with toughness and boon duration, dependent on life force pool, as in soul reaping, and has functionalities that you would normally find in blood magic. Again, I can think of 1 or 2 builds that I can make, but they are not strong enough to stand on their own. If they put something related to Death Shroud in blood magic as well, then I'm out, I'm done. Unholy Martyr. Draw 1 condition from allies every 3 seconds while in Death Shroud. Gain 5% life force every time a condition is drawn. Awesome. So what are we supposed to do? Go in Death Magic and Blood Magic to make a Death Shroud build without having increased life force from soul reaping? I mean, you could make such a build, but it won't stand the slightest chance against what you're about to see on screen soon. Last, we have Renewing Blast. Life Blast heals allies that it passes through. I actually like this buff a lot. I already played with it a bit. This buff is insane for the healing build that I made some time ago. It was called I Will Bring You Back. Feel free to check it on my channel. This is an insane major buff for that build. So they did offer us a major buff after all, but it's not the buff that I was looking for. I was looking for compensation for being overly nerfed as a glass cannon. They gave an amazing buff for a healing type build, which I would love to use if I wouldn't get kicked. If you wouldn't get kicked all the time by players in teams, since the Berserker meta is still not fixed. Allow me to demonstrate. Do you see this? Do you see this? I know. oh my fucking god, that damage, the thief is so pro, the thief is overpowered. Yeah, OP, until you realize that all he is doing is spamming pistol whip. And that damage... Do you bastards remember how many times I said attack speed and channeling duration matters? Pistol whip is a 3-second channeling skill, so when you see 15,000 on screen, it's not 15 fucking thousand DPS. The DPS is actually 15,000/3, that's 5,000 DPS, damage per second. Which is still greater than a condition build can do. As you can see, even at max stacks you are still capped at around 4,000 DPS with a condition build, not to mention that multiple bleeders overwrite each other. Yes, condition builds can do a lot more AoE because they hit 6 targets instead of 3, but that doesn't matter when you can corner stack. So in conclusion, the nerf fixed nothing. They only made a few classes that were already falling behind by this stupid phenomenon, corner stacking. They made them fall even more behind because those classes rely more on crit damage than the others. Now do you see why I said no fucking buffs and no fucking nerfs are needed to fix the Berserker meta? Just check the description of this video and click on the video with the suggestion and all will be made clear. The last thing I want to say is about PvP, but first let's see if we can find the nerf to backstab. Yeah, no nerf. Okay, watch this. So, do you see now why I said that the builds that open up for us are more or less useless? Our previous builds got crushed with indirect nerfs to Signet of Lisa and blah blah blah. What we got in return doesn't even come close to competing with something like that. I could go on for days on the subject, but I think I proved my point already. So, the bottom line is, they did do a lot of amazing modifications to this game in the last patch. I didn't think they had the guts to do something like this. They totally made the game shine on one side, but at the same time they moved even further away from balance, both in PvE and PvP. And this, my friends, is the brutal truth about the patch from April 15 that was released for Guild Wars 2. Combine this with the lack of dungeons or an expansion after 1.5 years into the game, and you'll understand why the game is losing so much popularity. While I was watching to see what the other YouTubers have said about the patch, I couldn't help but notice that Guild Wars 2 interest has dropped across the board. It's become really difficult to maintain a YouTube channel dedicated to Guild Wars 2 only. This is part of the reason why I branched into the Elder Scrolls Online, besides the fact that there is nothing left for me here. There's nothing for me to enjoy. Don't get me wrong, Guild Wars 2 is still probably one of the best, if not the best, free-to-play MMORPG out there, just not for someone that played the game for over a year. So I almost finished my warrior in Guild Wars 2, but like I said in the beginning, you guys know they gave me my characters back, but in the process they also rolled me back for like 2 weeks or something. So I have to remake that part. But I will be updating my glass cannon build as soon as I finish my warrior, because I want to do a comparison between necromancer DPS and warrior DPS. It's really important because people continue to be stupid. After that I will update the conditionmancer because I figured something out for the conditionmancer as well. And I also got to endgame with my sorcerer in the Elder Scrolls Online, so in the coming days, I think this week or the next, I plan on publishing my sorcerer endgame build for the Elder Scrolls Online. It's fucking amazing, the game is amazing. It will blow your mind, trust me. I'm not easily excited, but fucking hell, the build that I made boss. So, really long video, probably too late, probably won't present much interest to people, but since no one else bothered to say these things or not many people notice them, I thought I will. So until next time, enjoy your gaming and have a great day.